Let me explain to you why some people fall off track with their goals. I know that it's January 2026 when I'm filming this, so I know most people are setting like massive New Year's resolutions for themselves. But there's a particular reason why most people set goals and most people end up failing them, and that's because of a particular concept called identity. So let me explain that concept to you with the help of an example. Imagine that you are in this thick, dense forest where you're surrounded by a bunch of trees, right? Almost all the trees look identical to you, and the only way for you to get out of the forest is to basically go around, walk around in different directions, find your way out, right? So when you start off, if you're somewhat smart, you would make a particular design or make like a particular mark on a tree and imprint it on there, which will serve as your anchor point for judging direction. So let's say you walk in front of a tree, put like an X mark on it with like a marker or like a you carve it in with a knife, whatever, right? You put a mark on the tree. Now you've been walking around the forest in different directions, and it's probably been about a couple of days, and you're still trying to find your way out. If you come across the same tree where you marked an X onto the tree of, like if you came across that same particular tree, what would that tell you? That would tell you that you're basically lost and that you are running around in circles and you found the same tree in the same forest and that you haven't really made any progress, right? That is the anchor. Similarly, let's say you have a rubber band in your hand. If you hold the rubber band with one of your fingers and then you pull it out as far as you can, after a certain point, it's going to snap and revert back to this finger where it's actually being held because this finger is the anchor point. The anchor points for us in our lives are our identities. It's what we tell ourselves we are. So if someone says they are an unhealthy eater, they are someone that's addicted to junk foods, if that's what they keep telling themselves, when they go on a healthy diet, they'll do it for as long as motivation's there. And maybe like a month in, they'll go, okay, like this is who I am is someone that eats junk food, so I'll just go back to eating junk food anyway. Like, what difference does it make, right? So the anchor point for that person, the point of familiarity, was their old identity. Similarly, our identity is our point of familiarity when we traverse into the new, into the strange, into the different world. We always cling on to our familiarity, and that familiarity is going to be our identity. So, in order to avoid falling off of track with your goals, you shouldn't actually be setting goals in the first place. Those goals and those habits and whatever it is that you want to do have to already be inculcated into the current identity that you are trying to build. So essentially, what you're doing is instead of walking around the forest and try and find different directions, you are essentially changing the tree and climbing the tree and bending it towards the edge of the forest so that you can get out, right? Does that make sense? Because if you do that, then you're essentially changing your identity from within. Therefore, the new tasks and the new habits that you take up aren't really going to feel difficult for you because they're just something that you usually do. For instance, I've been training in the gym now for about 4 years. Before that, I was a fat, nerdy kid through school that was basically addicted to junk food, right? So imagine that kid that was maybe like 13, 14, fat. It's hard for him to breathe, it's hard for him to exercise, you can't really get a push up off, and going to the gym just makes him feel really scared because he doesn't feel manly enough per se compared to the rest of the people there because everyone else is really strong and healthy and this kid is just stood there like, man, I'm not strong at all and I don't think I can be either. Right? There's a bunch of fear for the kid at that particular point in time because that's not who he is. That's not the kind of person he is. And even if he were to start going to the gym, he'd go for like a month and then quit because then he would say, well, I'm just a fat kid. I'm not someone that goes to the gym regularly. I'm not an athlete, which is kind of the situation that I used to face when I was at that age. But I started training on the latter half of when I turned 16. And one of the first mindset switches that I made, maybe like 2, 3 months in of going to the gym, was to keep telling myself that I was an athlete. I would repeat to myself, I'm an athlete, I'm an athlete. And saying things isn't actually getting the work done, but saying it to myself over and over again to the point of deluding myself into believing that I am an athlete makes me act like an athlete and made me act like an athlete. Because what do athletes do? Athletes eat healthy, athletes take care of their sleep, athletes train regularly. I did all three of those on a consistent basis for about 4 years now. And I deluded myself at 16 into thinking that I was an athlete so much that I essentially became an athlete at 20 years old. I'm now 20 and I do identify as an athlete because I train very regularly. I take care of my sleep, I take care of my health, take care of my diet. I do exactly the same thing that athletes do. So you see what I've done here? I've simply changed my anchor point. I've simply changed the point of familiarity for myself, because now you leave me wherever you want to in the world, and the first thing that I'll cling on to is my identity, and my identity will be the fact that I'm an athlete. Put me in any situation, I'm going to think like an athlete would, because that is how I identify. And identity gives us meaning in life, which is what we're all striving for at the end of the day. We all don't we all chase jobs, and we all chase particular designations, and we all chase certain activities because we want to be given the title of someone that is doing something purposeful and something meaningful, because that identity gives us purpose and gives us benefit, right? So here's the fix for you if you're struggling with starting new habits and you feel like you start something new and it just fails and it just flops and you just return back to your usual self. Start by writing down what your current identity is, who you are right now. How would you describe yourself? And be very unfiltered. Don't be disrespectful to yourself, obviously, but literally just state the facts down. Like if you're overweight, just write that you're overweight. That's not you being mean. That's simply just you stating objective facts that you can use for reference, right? Like that's who you are. That's your identity right now. Be very brutally honest with yourself, because if you're not honest to yourself, you can never be honest to anybody else, and nobody else will be honest to you. Write that down on one side of the paper. On the other side of the paper, write down the identity that you think someone who does the habit you do already would have. So if that's someone that is, so if you're trying to be someone that trains healthy, not trains healthy, trains consistently, eats healthy, and essentially takes care of the health, you would write down, okay, my next identity, my eventual identity that I want to get to is the fact of being an athlete, is someone that takes care of their health. You would write that down, and you would write down exactly what that person would do, and you would ask yourself at every junction of life, what would the athlete do in this particular instance? If an athlete is offered, I don't know, a bunch of drinks, for instance, the athlete would most likely say no, because it's not really healthy for them in the long run. It ruins abs, it ruins muscle building, it ruins a bunch of shit. So the athlete would say no. So keep asking yourself, what would the athlete do in this particular scenario? And you and start pretending like you are that athlete. Fake it till you make it is genuinely one of the best strategies in life. Fake it till you make it, and eventually you will become the person that you were trying to become anyway. Stay consistent to only one thing, and that one thing is a delusion that you tell yourself about this new identity. And before you know it, you will morph into that identity, because that becomes your current anchor point. That becomes your point of familiarity. And from that point on, things will feel much easier. Trust me when I say that, because when I was 14 and I was in a different state of identity, going to the gym was a chore for me. Going to the gym was very difficult for me. But here I am at 20 years old. I consider myself an athlete. Therefore, going to the gym is actually very fun for me. It's something that I genuinely enjoy. It's something that I look forward to. In fact, I'm about to go train right after I finish filming this video. So, yeah, instead of setting new goals and failing all the time, stop with the goal setting and just change your identity, change your framing point, change your point of familiarity, and then you can anchor yourself to this new identity where the particular habit that you want to pursue becomes really easy for you. I'm in fact doing that while I'm filming this video, because I've only recently started YouTube, but I'm trying to install the mindset of a creator there. I'm trying to install the mindset of a content creator into my brain. So now when I turn the camera on, everything just feels much more natural. Like you don't see me stuttering, you don't see me losing focus, you don't see cuts in this video, because I'm trying to stay in the identity of being a creator, and a creator provides value and, more importantly, entertainment and information. Maybe not on the entertainment end, but information and knowledge. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do, as I'm trying to share with you the lessons that I've learned through life. And I feel like I'm getting better the more I practice. I'm getting better the more I keep telling myself that I am a creator. Therefore, I have to keep thinking like a creator. I have to plan stuff like a creator. I have to film stuff like a creator, etc. So, yeah, start by changing your anchor point and watch how that transforms your identity, and watch how your identity is going to make life a lot easier for you when you try new habits and new goals. So, go ahead, give that a shot, and let me know how it goes.